Freddy Fazbear's Pizza was once a popular restaurant for adults and children alike. Unfortunately, because of a number of incidents including the kidnapping and murder of 5 children by a man wearing an empty animatronic suit, sanctions by the health department over the numerous reports of dirtiness, and the bite of 87, the pizzeria has fallen on hard times. The bite of 87 was an incident that occurred in 1987 at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. It is briefly mentioned by the phone guy in the first game. The details of this attack and the identity of the animatronics responsible are not given, but apparently it caused a loss of the frontal lobe in the victim's brain. The frontal lobes are involved in planning, decision-making, and inhibitions. They are also linked to emotion and personality. The frontal lobes are the part of the brain targeted in lobotomies by sticking a needle-like instrument behind the eye socket. Anyway, for theories about the real perpetrators of the 87 bite, click here. The scandals surrounding Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria do not end here. The missing children's incident was an event occurring at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza and is mentioned in all 3 games and shown in multiple newspaper clippings that can be seen replacing the rules for the safety sign, normally appearing in the east hall corner. These clippings explain that during late June of an unspecified year, a total of 5 children had gradually gone missing at the pizzeria. Police suspect that a man had disguised himself in an animatronics costume and lured the children to a back room where he murdered them. Soon after the incident, the company's animatronics had begun to leak blood and mucus around the facial areas, and had released a foul odor. The phone guy remarks in Night 1's phone message that the animatronics haven't been cleaned in 20 plus years of service, which would explain the stench. Scott Cawthon, the game's creator, has confirmed that the pizzeria is haunted by the missing children. As a result, the screeches of Freddy and the other animatrons are suspected to be the terrified screams of those children who were stuffed into the suits. For more theories on the missing children, click here. Unsurprisingly, the incident contributed to a loss in the restaurant's reputation, causing a sharp drop in business. In any case, the restaurant is set to close at the end of the year, as no buyers want to be associated with this tainted reputation. In Five Nights at Freddy's 1, you play as Mike Schmidt, a security guard employed by Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The game is played in the first-person perspective through Mike's eyes. We don't know much about Mike's character. Why would he continue to work at a failing pizzeria with a high risk of death for pay below minimum wage? Is it desperation or thrill-seeking? Considering Freddy's Tornado March is one of the main themes of the game, maybe the latter is more likely. As Schmidt, your job is to monitor Freddy Fazbear, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and additionally, the mysterious Golden Freddy. For more on the Golden Freddy, click here. They wander about Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria after hours in a free-roaming mode, due to their servos locking up if they stay in one place too long. Because the security guard is there after business hours, the animatronics will not recognize him as a human, and will think that he is an endoskeleton without a costume on. As this is against the rules at Freddy's, they will attempt to forcefully stuff the player into an animatronic suit. There is no room for a human to stay alive inside the suits, as they are filled with crossbeams, wires, and animatronic machinery. The only parts of the human body that would ever be seen again are the eyeballs and teeth, popping out of the front of the suit's mask. This ends up killing the player, as seen on the Game Over screen. At the end of Night 5, Mike Schmidt received a whopping check of $120. Totally worth it. At the end of Night 6, he receives a comparatively minuscule check of $120.50. Upon completing the custom night, he receipts a notice of termination. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the second game in the series, acting as both a sequel in name and creation date, and a prequel, story-wise, to Five Nights at Freddy's. In this game, you play as Jeremy Fitzgerald. He is a security guard employed by Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, who worked the midnight to 6 AM shifts from Sunday, November 8th, 1987 to Friday, November 13th, 1987, before being moved to the dreaded day shift, as it was cancelled in the original Five Nights at Freddy. In this game there are 6 brand new animatronics, this time more child-friendly. Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica, Mangle, Balloon Boy and the Puppet are the new characters. The new Toy animatronics are supposed to connect to a criminal database, enabling them to identify dangerous individuals in the restaurant and protect their valued customers if necessary. As the week goes on, this coding appears to drastically malfunction, as Phone Guy informs the player of the animatronics merely staring at adult patrons, regardless of their hostility. The toy animatronics are also potentially hostile to their identified criminal targets, as Phone Guy advises the player to avoid eye contact with them for the player's own safety. Their predecessors, meanwhile, have been recycled for parts for the toy versions and are stored in the Parts and Services department. Despite being decommissioned, they remain majorly active. In Five Nights at Freddy's 2, the animatronics aren't left on a free-roaming mode at night. Instead, during their construction, the robots were never given a proper night mode, so at night, when they don't hear a noise, they think they're in the wrong room. They then try to find the nearest source of noise in an attempt to find people, and in this case this leads them straight to the player's office, straight to Jeremy Fitzgerald. At the end of Night 5, Fitzgerald receives a check of $100.50. During Night 6, Phone Guy tells Jeremy that the next day he will work the day shift and is to closely monitor the animatronics during a birthday party. Upon completing the 6th night, Jeremy receives a check for $20.10 for overtime, as well as a newsletter that says the restaurant is closing. In the custom night, Jeremy is replaced by Fritz Smith for his only night. Little is known about the character of Smith, but we can assume he is much like Schmidt and Fitzgerald. Five Nights at Freddy's 3. 30 years after Freddy Fazbear's Pizza closed the stores, the events that took place there have become nothing more than a rumor and a childhood memory. But the owners of Fazbear's Fright, the horror attraction, are determined to revive the legend and make the experiences as authentic as possible for patrons, going to great lengths to find anything that might have survived decades of neglect and ruin. At first, there were only empty shelves, a hand, a hook, an old paper plate doll, but then a remarkable discovery was made. The attraction now has one animatronic. This animatronic is yellow-green, deteriorated, and rabbit-like in appearance. This character is named Springtrap, who is the only true threat in the game. He is accompanied by haunting visions of the old characters known as the Phantoms. Phantom Freddy, Phantom Chica, Phantom Foxy, Phantom Balloon Boy, Phantom Mangle, and Phantom Puppet. As the night progresses, the player hears a series of instructional cassette tapes similar to the telephone calls from the first two games, that instruct employees how to operate the Springtrap suit, which can be worn by both humans and animatronic endoskeletons. However, later tapes discourage the usage of the suit by employees due to a series of fatal incidents involving the failure of the suit's spring-lock mechanism. Low-resolution minigames between nights hint at the restaurant's troubled past, with the first 4 nights minigames depicting the original animatronics following a dark purple animatronic before being violently disassembled by a quote-unquote Purple Man, previously seen in the minigames of Five Nights at Freddy's 2, as the man responsible for the missing children's incident. In the 5th night's minigame, the ghosts of the 5 children who inhabited the animatronics corner the Purple Man, who attempts to protect himself by hiding in the Springtrap suit. However, the suit's faulty spring-lock mechanism fails, and the Purple Man is crushed, as the children fade away, leaving their killer to bleed to death. Unlike the previous entries, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 contains 2 endings depending on whether the player has found and completed all of the hidden minigames within the main game. The bad ending is attained from completing the game without completing all the hidden minigames, and shows a screen depicting the heads of the 5 animatronics from the first game with their eyes lit up. Completing all the hidden minigames before completing the game earns the good ending, which is the same screen as described previously, but with the animatronics' heads turned off. Completing all 5 nights unlocks a bonus night, Nightmare, which boosts the game's difficulty, similar to Night 6 in the previous titles. While playing the mode, an archived recording states that all Freddy Fazbear's Pizza locations, safe rooms, and additional emergency rooms not recorded in the animatronics, AI, or security systems will be permanently sealed, instructing employees to tell no one of their existence. When this night is completed, newspaper clippings reveal that Freddy Fazbear's is destroyed in a fire shortly after the events of the game, and that any salvageable pieces from the attraction are to be auctioned off. Brightening the image at the end reveals Springtrap in the background, which suggests that he survived, leaving his fate unknown. There's no confirmation of his death. Considering the game's supernatural elements in play, fans don't necessarily know that a fire will end the terrifying events. If Foxy and Chica's parts were salvaged, for example, couldn't they still wreak havoc somewhere else? The possibility is certain there. Is this really the end of the Freddy Fazbear saga, or is it just the start of a new chapter? Only time and Scott Cawthon can tell.